Good morning, everyone. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, everybody. How's your weekend? Um, I've been saying I want to do. I told you I think 2 3 days ago that I'm going to be doing a show where we'll be looking at. I want to do a show. If you're a parent in United Kingdom, yeah. If you're a parent in United Kingdom, if you're a parent, whether in United Kingdom, well, specifically United Kingdom, if you're a parent, it might be beneficial to you if you're in other country. I don't, other countries' system is similar. Other countries' system is similar, and the response is similar. It's not rocket science. So if you're a parent in Africa Africa looking to move at some point or the other, you're looking to relocate, or if you're a parent over here and you are an African parent, my direction, my this show is mainly targeted at African parents because there's a lot of misleading information out there. I'm going to make this show a call-in show because I want people to call in. If you want, yeah, I want people to call in, and I would love that people ask me questions. Hey, Nse, how are you? Good. How are you? How are you? How are you? Hope you're having a good weekend. I would love parents to. I would not parents. I would love people to call in, whether parent or not parent. It doesn't. You don't have to be a parent. I would love people to call in and ask me questions. Um, I'm going to start in a very professional way first. I'm going to wear my professional cap. Is what I will wear initially. We can we can kind of water it down slightly, but I want to be very very professional because I want to drive a message home. Um, so there's been a lot of misleading. There's a lot of not even there's been. There are a lot of misleading information within our community, and I have to say, even within the host community where we live, there's a lot of misleading information. The truth is nobody likes social workers, and I can tell you that for free. Nobody likes social workers. Unfortunately, there's a perception of what people assume social work to be. The assumption is, as a social worker, you are there to come and collect children. And I can tell you authoritatively, the answer is no, that's not it. Social workers does not just come and collect children from anybody. In short, accommodating a child. So when a child is removed from home, it's called accommodation. That's a professional term for that. Professional term for that. I can tell you for free that accommodating a child, so removing a child from the parent, is more expensive than actually keeping the child at home or with friends and family of that family. Okay, of that child. So, uh, I'm going to today's show. I'm going to take my time, and I deliberately want to do it because I have seen in my years of practice over the years, I have seen a lot of misinformation, even among the Caucasian community. When social workers turn up at the door, you are here to come and take my child, or when social worker is calling, you are here to come and take my child. So I'm not going to jump at social work first. I'm going to take you through some things. If you're in the UK, there are some things I will show you that that you will be familiar with, or you would have noticed. And those things, if you notice those things, I don't know. So a lot of people, and it's very interesting because a lot of parents who, not just parents, even a lot of African parents or African migrants who see these things but do not understand what it is, or maybe they are naive to what it is. Because, and then I also want to clarify something before we go further. It is very wrong to say there's no social service in Africa, and it is very wrong to say there's no child protection in Africa. That's a big fat lie. As a matter of fact, there is social service in Africa. The social service in Africa is more of advocacy. So those your NGOs, those the things you call NGO. Over here in the UK, we call them charities. Okay, those things you call those organizations you call NGO. A lot of them, and social service in Africa is more communal. Okay, and when I say communal, it means it's more driven from angle of community what did they call it now? I'm trying to look for the right word. It's more driven from community lens. So the social worker does not necessarily have that. The community manages social work's expectation is managed within the community. I know they have association. Again, the association is more of a civil society kind of association. Unlike the United Kingdom, so in the United Kingdom, social service or uh, social work is being regulated by the government. So a social worker either works a statutory. So we have what we call a statutory social worker. So a statutory social worker is a social worker that is employed by the local authority. In England, you call them borough. In Scotland, we call them local authority, councils. That's what we call them here in Scotland. So social workers are employed by the government. That's basically the long and short of the story. So if you're a social worker and you are employed by the government is the largest employer. The government have the largest employment of social work. Or social workers. However, we also have third sector. So like what you call your NGOs, like your charities. We have third sectors that employ social workers, but social workers do not operate as social workers in the capacity that they would operate if they are employed by the local authority, or they are employed by your boroughs, by your government. Okay, by the government. So if you work, so as a social worker that works in Barnardos, they can do a child protection assessment, but they need to work side by side with the social worker, with the statutory social worker, which is social worker from that is employed by the local authority, that is employed by the government. Okay, because the social worker that is employed by the government is the one that can chair a child protection case, and is a case manager for a child protection case. So that social worker, he or she will coordinate that case. Okay, so I will break it down. So I'm just take your time. Like I said a few days ago that I mentioned that I was going to do this show. If you have pen and paper, it will do you good. Okay, it will do you good if you have your pen and paper. It will do you good if you can. I know Facebook does. I think they delete every 1 month or whatever they do. This video, I always stream my video both on Facebook and YouTube. So if it gets deleted, just go on the YouTube. You will see the video there. Okay. So, like I said, the social workers who work within the third sector, within the charities, NGO, like you call it in Nigeria, those social workers, they are case managers in their organization, but however, they would always need the guidance of a statutory social worker if there's a child protection concerns. Okay, by law they have to report a child protection case to the statutory social work. Okay, however, like your communal social work system in Africa, the social workers that work within charities here in the UK, they don't need they don't they, the child does not need to, they tend to work at edge of care. So you have so you have like organizations like Children's First. If you are used to all of these things, you have Children's First, you have Barnardos, you have Save the Children. There are so many names. Afruka, there are so many names, so many names. Just think of all these organizations that work with children, that work with families. So these organizations in the UK, a lot of them have they have social workers working with them. However, they might advertise the role for social workers, but the social worker cannot operate. I'm talking of Scotland because in England, there are different rules. I know in England, social workers that are employed by charity organizations operate as social workers. In Scotland, that is not the case. In Scotland, if you are employed by a charity organization, you cannot work in the capacity of social work. You do not have that remains of power as a social worker in in a charity organization. Okay, so your role, the role of that social worker, in short, that social worker cannot have the title of a social worker. It could either be a project worker or whatever it is that the role was advertised at. But it could be that one of the main qualification that they're looking for is social work. Barnardos is very good in employing social workers because Barnardos does a lot around children and family. And for families to be involved with Barnardos, so maybe there are families who are struggling. Barnardos Save the Children. I'm just calling Barnardos. I know there are so many of them. I'm just calling a name that I'm calling the one I can remember. There are loads of them, loads of them. For instance, maybe there's concerns with children at home. School and Barnardos. School could refer to the likes of Barnardos, and then Barnardos will step in, and they will start supporting the children and their parents. Social workers, remember I said there's statutory social work. Statutory social work, I repeat, is social workers who are employed by the local authority. They are employed by the government. So let me just use the word government, so it makes it easy. Now, Barnardos does not need to start working with families when Barnardos can start working with the family, or charities can start working with the family long before long before a social worker that is employed by the government gets involved. Okay, the aim of having the likes of Barnardos, Save the Children, Family, whatever they call, I can't remember. There are so many names, so I'm sure you remember all these names. The aim of this organization, or this charity organization working with families, is to minimize the risk before the case escalates to what becomes a full-blown child protection case. Okay, so I'm not going to bore you. I'm deliberately telling you the difference between there are two types of social work. There are two types of social work response. Okay, the main one is a response from the social work, the government employed social workers. Now, when a government employed social worker, when the case is referred to the government employed social workers, then something needs to be done. Okay, and before that can happen, before a case is referred to a government employed social work, it means that whatever organization is referring, they have done everything, and parents are still struggling. There is still concerns about there's still risk around the child, and the risk has been difficult to manage. So the government employed social workers now need to step in, and I will tell you the process around that. The government employed social workers the case needs to be referred to government employed social workers, which is a statutory social work, and a clear plan and a clear time frame needs to be put in place. If having all of that in place, if things do not resolve, then it doesn't necessarily have, when cases are referred to statutory social workers or government employed social workers, it doesn't automatically make the case a child protection case. No. It takes a lot. There's a lot of things that lead to a child being placed on child protection, being placed on what you call the child protection register. Okay, there could be child protection case, but it might not meet the threshold of child protection register. Okay, so there, if parents work closely with family, if parents work closely with professionals, all well and good, but when there's difficulties in parents working or cooperating with professionals, then it needs to be escalated to child protection. Now I can tell you for free, a child being placed on child protection register is the highest voluntary level of engagement. Okay, that is the highest level of voluntary engagement with the government, with statutory social worker. And if a child is still placed on child protection and parents are still not engaging voluntarily, in Scotland, the child will be referred to the children's reporter. The short name is CRA. Okay, it will be referred to the children's reporter, and then it becomes full-blown legal. The child will either be placed on interim supervision order or will be placed on child protection order. In England, they have the children's court. I say the children and family courts. That's what they have in England. Like I said, I've never practiced in England. I've always practiced in Scotland. My role has always been a role that has been practiced and enshrined in the Scottish system. But I can tell you, I know that in England, there is a lot of, their system is quite, they have a very complex system from the cases that comes through them. From the cases that have been transferred from England, there's a lot of complex. We see that their system is quite complex. Their child protection process is totally different from the way it is done here in Scotland. However, the reality is child protection is child protection. Concern is concern. It doesn't matter the process of how it's done. Okay? Child protection is child protection. When there's concerns, it needs to be the state needs to respond. It's just as simple as that. It doesn't matter whether you're in England, whether you're in Wales, you are in Ireland, wherever you are. The response is the same. Okay? And another thing I would say is social work does not target any ethnic minority. Social work does not target anybody. Okay? If you compromise the safety of your child, if the safety of a child is compromised, it doesn't matter whether you are black, green, yellow, orange, whatever color you are. It doesn't matter. Child protection is child protection. Okay? Yes, they are going to take into consideration when assessment is being done, the race of the child is going to be taken into consideration, the ethnicity of the child is going to be taken into consideration, the cultural response is going to be taken into consideration. However, it doesn't take away the fact that the child is exposed to risk of harm. Okay? Now, the reason why I am saying all of this, I think I have already done a video on child protection. I think I did that like some months ago. It's on my YouTube page. I don't know if it's still on Facebook. It's on the YouTube page. It's the same name. So if you go on Aproko with Spice, you see it. If you go on my page, you see the YouTube page there. Anyway, I did that, and I deliberately did that show then, just to kind of educate our people. And I said I was going to come back, and we're going to look at, because I got a lot of calls. People were talking about, people gave me feedback. Thank you for doing this. Anyway, I said I was going to come back. And then it was beginning of this week, my attention was drawn to Mom of 5. There's a lady on YouTube. I saw a video on YouTube, so it's not, the video that was sent to me was a video on YouTube. Mom of 5. She lives in Scotland. I think she has 5 kids. Maybe that's why she says Mom of 5, right? She's a nurse. My attention was drawn to a video. And if you're listening, it's not to target you. It's just, there were some things you said, and being a professional, I was quite surprised at your reflection of the incident that happened. I was quite surprised at it. And so I felt, okay, your story is your story. Nobody's going to take your story away from you. But I think the topic that was placed on that story is very misleading, particularly knowing that you're a nurse in knowing that you're a nurse on the soil of United Kingdom, and you understand equality, you understand the Equality Act. I think it's very misleading to have that kind of topic, making it seem like social workers are targeting African families. And I'm saying it from a professional ground. It's very, very misleading. Okay? Yes, I understand people want to have catchy topics to drive traffic to their page. But I think it's very misleading to suggest that social work or social service are targeting African children. I think it's very, very misleading. If somebody else had mentioned what you said, had titled it the way you titled, if it was non-professional that titled it the way you titled it, I think I would have looked away. But the fact that you're a nurse and you practice on the soil of Scotland or on the soil of United Kingdom, forget about even whether it's Scotland or whatever, that you practice on the soil of United Kingdom and you understand the role and the impact of Equality Act in service delivery, I'm quite disappointed. I have to be honest. I'm so disappointed. But that's that. Like I said, your story is your story. But looking back, I mean, no offense, but if you get to see my video, if you ever get to see it, that's something I was quite that was something I was quite disappointed at, because working in a service delivery environment, I would have expected you to put that title you had a reason. There was a reason why social work came to your family. There was a reason why there was social work intervention. Okay? So making it look like putting a title that make it suggest that African families are being targeted, and you understanding Equality Act and you understand the role Equality Act plays in service delivery, the implication of Equality Act, I think professionally, I would question your practice. That's me. But let's leave that aside. Let's put that. So, Mom of Five, like I said, she kind of suggested. So let me even see how she titled it, so you understand. Me, I don't. I'm just talking mainly from a professional angle. I'm not. I'm not that kind of person that mix my words. Let me see. Because, let me see. Is it Mom of Five is called? Yeah. Is Mom of Five is called? Yeah, so okay, it says, let me see. You could even do the one. Oh, sorry. Yeah, so the title is UK Social Services Targeting African Parents, African Families. Came for my job. One child, and I think it's one child or whatever. I don't know. Yeah, it's just the way she titled it, and I think no, this is disgusting. And she said, "Are UK families unfairly targeting African families? In this video, I share my personal experience of how social workers came after my job, children, and family, raising questions about discrimination, cultural misunderstanding, and the struggle of African community and the struggles African communities faced in the UK. Many African and migrant families feel the system is against them, from false allegations to child custody battle. This is a reality that needs more awareness." I'm quite surprised. This is disgusting. This is so misleading. This is so misleading. Anyway, let's leave it aside. I understand people want to have a catchy topic. I understand people want to have catchy topics. They want to be able to drive traffic to their hey, when how are you? They want to be able to drive traffic to their page. But like I always say, when you want it doesn't matter what you want to do. But whatever you are saying, please be honest. Okay? Don't let your topic be misleading, particularly when you're talking about service delivery, because you are definitely driving traffic, but maybe driving traffic in the wrong with wrong narratives. So that's that. Anyway, so first and foremost, if you live in the UK, I'll show you some. So if you are based in England, you would have seen this. I'm sure you see this everywhere. Every child matters. If you are based in England, you see this. This will be something that will be common, that will be a familiar thing to you if you live in England. Every child matters. And it talks about the health, a child being healthy, a child staying safe, a child engaging, a child achieving, and the child being made having positive contribution in the family. So if you live in England, this is something that you'll be used to seeing, and I'm sure you'll be seeing that with in the health centers, at school, obviously in social service environment, anywhere that you have children, nursery, whatever, you will see all of these there. And in Scotland, if you live in Scotland, oh no, yeah, if you live in Scotland, you will see this. I'm sure if you live in Scotland, you would have seen this. At schools, you will see this. My World. It's called My World Triangle. So if you live in Scotland, you would have seen this My World Triangle. Again, the child is at the center of it all. The child is expected to achieve, the child is expected to thrive, and the child is expected to be active. And everyone, including the child, everyone, including the parents, everybody around that child is responsible for the child to fully thrive. We all have expectation. Every child has to be protected. How I grew up, the role of all corporate parents, including parents. What I need from the people around me as I grow up, my wider world. So you have school, how the child grows up. There are a lot of things. You have the parents who are the primary caregiver of the child. And like I always say, the home is meant to be a safe place. That's the first place that a child should be safe. The moment the safety of a child is compromised at home, that triggers everything. A child, the home front, the home where that child lives, should always be a place of safety. And that's why when concerns are raised, the first thing first is we want to know what's happening at home. Who are the people at home? Who are the people fully responsible for the primary care of that child? Single parent household, same-sex parent household, heterosexual household, whatever it is. We want to know who is in the life of that child. Okay? So we look at is a child, before the child is born. So all of this, my world, it doesn't start from when the child is born. Before the child is born, that's why you have midwife. As the health of the child is being cared for, as the child is being cared for, as mom is being cared for, and doctors are responding to the pregnancy of mom, ensuring that everything is okay. Same way the midwife is responding and also feeding back to the pediatrician. And that's why child protection can be triggered even before the child is born. Okay? So, my word triangle. So let's start from a pregnant mom. So when a mom is pregnant, a mom is pregnant. Let's start from a pregnant mom because it begins to make sense now. When the mom is pregnant, obviously she engages with her GP at some point to let her GP know she's pregnant. A midwife is assigned to her. Okay, checks are done. Medical checks are done on her, and midwife is assigned to her. Now, the medical checks with the notion that her medical history, if you have lived in the UK, if you are living in the UK, your medical history is there and available. However, if you don't live in the UK, they need to try and gather your medical history. Okay, one, for the safety of the child, for the safety of the mom, and also for the safety of the child. Now, the medical history that is being gathered, or the medical information that is being gathered, is not just about your physical health. As a mom, they are looking at your physical, your mental, your emotional health. Okay? So, what's your physical health like? The women in your household, is what are the things that we need to know about women in your household? Is cancer something that, there are a lot of things like is cancer something that is common in your household? What's birth like in your household? Those information, they gather it. Now, your mental health, then so still part of your physical health. Have you ever taken drugs? Are you an alcohol? Have you ever taken alcohol? Do you take alcohol as a social drinker? Have you ever had addiction? All sorts of things come to play. Okay, they look at that. Now, if you are a user, so we say a user if you take substance. So the question is, what kind of substance do you take? Do they need to help manage that substance? Do they need to help manage the intake of that substance, or medically manage the intake of that substance while you are pregnant, and then start taking there's a way they work with you if you're a substance user. Okay, so when I say substance user, maybe someone that takes drugs, alcohol, whatever it is that you're taking, they begin to manage that. So all of that, you can see how your physical health begins to make sense. So obviously, if you take substance, whether alcohol or drugs, it means your child has a high rate of having withdrawal when the child is born. Depending on, there's a high rate of withdrawal. Okay, and not just withdrawal, it might also impact the child neurologically. So there is a lot there. It's not just as simple as the mom is a drug user or the mom is a alcohol user. And what about dad? If dad is in the picture, is dad also a user who can keep the child safe? Okay, is dad a user? If dad is a user, what does he use? Does he inject? Does he pipe? Does he vape? There are a lot of questions that will be asked. Okay. Now, if mom is a user, if it's alcohol, how often do you take alcohol? How many units do you take? All those questions becomes important. Okay. And it could be that they would have additional health worker, to help manage. So there has to be close watch on mom and dad. Now, obviously, if you're a user, if you're a substance user, it means that we also need to look at finances. How often do you buy what you're buying? Do you take what you're taking? How often do you buy it? Are you buying that? And then we have to be going to the house, the health staff. At this time, social work doesn't even need to be involved. The health staff, in most cases, anyway, the health staff will go to the house, check that, okay, what does the house look like? Is the house clean? If they use needles, if there are people that use substance with needles, how do they keep the needles clear? Are they able to dispose the needle safely? If they can't, that's a red flag. That's a concern already. So you can see, while they're looking at mom and dad, if dad is in the picture, they are also looking at the safety for when the child will be born. If they have pets in the house, are these pets, professionals go to the house, how does this pet react to professionals? How do they react to strangers? Are they violent towards strangers? If they're violent towards strangers, and that raises questions too. Because if they're violent towards stranger, then that means that child, they might be violent towards a child. So it might be a case of, they work closely with parents in identifying this risk, advancing this risk, and managing it. Okay. Now, they're not saying you can't have pets in the house, but they need to be able to mitigate the risk around the child. So, if mom or dad, if mom is a user, the question is mom known to addiction services? If she's known to addiction services, then the question is, how much, when was the last time does she engage regularly? Was her engagement a one-off thing? There is record needs to be checked. Who else is a user in the household? They'll look at it. Okay, say for instance, when mom uses, what happens? What does it do to mom? How long has mom used? All of these questions come to play. Okay? And then for dad too, how often does dad use? How does it impact on dad? Of course, if you're a user, it's going to impact on your judgments. It's going to impact on your lifestyle. Are you able to prioritize your child's care over your addiction as a parent? When you're not using, what's your cold turkey season like? That's when you're withdrawing. What does it look like? The chances that if you're a user, the chances that people around you, there will definitely be people around you who are users as well. It may not be everybody, but you'll be surrounded by users because you have something in common. Who are these people? What are their records? We find out their name, help to find out their name, check out their records. Because the child that will be born is fully dependent on the parents, on the caregiver. And then the fact, I want to put it out there, that the fact that mom or dad are users does not mean that they cannot care for a child. And I can tell you authoritatively from my years of practice, I can tell you, I've worked with users who care for their children, but with the support of extended family will be identified. A trusted adult within the extended family will be identified to help care for both parents, to help manage the care of this child. Sometimes it could be grandparents, it could be friends, it could be siblings, it could be parents' siblings. They will step in. So there we have what we call safety plan that will be put in place. Okay? That is before the child is born. And we have what we call the birth plan of a child. Now, the fact that mom is a user does not automatically mean social work will be involved. No, it doesn't mean that. If parents cooperate, if they work closely, if they work collaboratively with the health staffs, health professionals, there's no reason why social work should be involved. Because the health staff, they can work with parents. Yes, parents might be users, but being a health staff, they are able to engage with parents and extended families. And they're able to identify who can help support parents. And in a lot of times, I've seen that happen. Okay? Now, it becomes a child protection concern if mom is not engaging with the service or with the treatment that she's been asked to engage with. Because it's not just a case of just the pregnant mom not engaging. It's the fact that she's compromising the safety of her child, of her unborn baby. If the woman, say for instance, that's her first pregnancy, okay, if she has had other children, where are the other children? Are they in her care? How did she manage? Was she a user while caring for the other children? All of these things, these histories all of this information becomes very important. Okay, so that's that. Now, if it's a case that the child now the unborn baby needs to be placed on child protection, there needs to be a very good reason why that would happen. It's not just a case of one midwife just waking up one morning. No, we need to do child protection. It doesn't work like that. There must be a reason why the child will be placed on child protection. It could be that mom is not engaging with her treatments, with her safe use treatments. That's what it's called. I don't know. Different people call it different things. So if she's not engaging with it, then there's concerns. A health appointment, is she attending? If the answer is no, again, that raises concerns. And or of course, there's no way she will be a user, and she won't be exposed to all kind of people, like I said. So abuse could be going on, domestic abuse could be going on, crime could be going on. They might be selling drugs from the household, or all sorts of things happens. Okay. So the case, if there's concerns around the safety of the unborn baby, obviously if there's concern about the safety of mom, then it leads to concern around the safety of the unborn baby. If dad is in the picture, how is dad able to mitigate this safety, this risk that has been identified? Is dad working closely with with professionals? If dad is working closely with professionals, dad will be seen as a trusted adult, and there will be support plan around that. There will be safety plan around that. But in a case where mom and dad are not both engaging, if dad is in the picture, then it now needs to be escalated. Child protection needs to be escalated, and escalation leads to what we call interagency risk discussion, popularly known as IRD. Okay, so they have this discussion. At this case, health needs to report to social work. What are the risks? Police, the people that are involved in the IRD includes if there are other children in the household, so school will be involved. Somebody from education will be present to give a picture, a clear picture and update of the children in the care of those parents. Police will be involved. Police could either have a role. It could be that the parents are known to police, or the parents are not known to police. Well, police will be involved. Have there ever been intelligence on the family? Have there ever been crime committed? Have police ever turned up at the door? The chances most times are high. Okay, when there's substance misuse, that environment is always a very chaotic environment. When there's alcohol misuse, there's always a chaotic environment. Okay, so police would be part of this interagency risk discussion, IRD. Social work will be there, and of course, health is probably most likely the one who is leading that conversation. Health is the one who has called for IRD, but social work will be the one to chair it. Okay, social work is a lead professional who coordinates everyone. So in the IRD, health most likely will be the one to present their case. We have a pregnant mom, blah blah blah, whatever the problem is, they will list it. And then, okay, school if the family have older children or other kids in the household, what's the attendance of those children? How do those kids present at school? School will give an update. Police would give an update. What did they know about the family? Any information that they will give the update about it. Now, this is not to stigmatize the parent. This meeting is strictly to identify task. This is the concern. The concern has been established. Now, task needs to be put in place, and there will be a time frame. So it could be, okay, maybe health needs to. They will tell health. It might be that health needs to do a couple of things. Health will be whatever. They will give them their task. Police will have their task. School will have their task. At this stage, social work is not involved. Social work is just coordinating that meeting. And then they will give a time frame, maybe 2 weeks time, we'll all come back together, and then, we'll come back and have that discussion. And then 2 weeks time, they come back together, things are still not changed. Then, or things has not changed, the risk has significantly increased, then decision will now be made. we need to put this child, the unborn baby, on child protection register. And of course, the child is placed on child protection register, and most likely, if there are other children in the house, so they'll place them on child protection register, and a social worker will be allocated to then work with the family. Now, the allocation of a social worker to that family is not for the children to be removed. Is to work closely with the parents to identify different supports. Okay, maybe these are the existing supports. Let's look at other ways of supporting this family. Because what they're aiming to achieve is the child being safe at home. If the child could remain at home, if the children could remain at home, how do we work closely? So a social work assistant will be there. You could have like the likes of Barnardos, Save the Children, whatever it is, whatever charities available, to work closely with children, working closely with every child in that household, working closely. In short, it could just be a simple thing as there is a support worker allocated to work with mom closely to ensure she attends her health appointments. And that could just be a game changer. We'll look at mental health. Where is mental health? In the IRD, you also have like the addiction workers there who will say their own bit. What do they know about mom? How is mom engaging? You understand those kind of things. So every professional in the life of that family will be present at the IRD. Now, when the social worker is allocated, the social worker then work with all professionals. Of course, police are the background of it, but social work will work closely. A child's plan will be drawn. Social work will work. So the child's plan, I will show you what needs to be in the child's plan. We have what we call the well-being indicator. So again, if you're in Scotland, you would have seen this. So you would have seen this in Scotland. I think in England as well, they have something like that, something similar. So the key thing you can see, getting it right for every child, that is the ultimate. The child is always at the center of it all. So the first thing, the reason why there was concern raised, and I'm just giving a scenario of a mom who is a user. The reason why concern is raised, the safety of the children, of that child, or the unborn baby, or maybe other children in the household, their safety has been compromised because mom is not engaging, parents are not engaging. Okay? So the safety of the children and the unborn baby is compromised. Now, let me bring it to our African parents. And I would highlight, using Mom of Five, one mom of our story, well, not our story, but highlighting the concern that led to her child being removed. So from what she said her son, so she has 5 kids, one of her son upset the sister. And of course, she had to respond. And her response was hitting the boy on his shoulder. Definitely is not a tap. She's hit the child. She's physically chastised the child. It's as simple as that. Okay? Now in Scotland, physical chastisement is a no-no. Okay? It's a no-no. Like capital letter no. So, the fact that she's hit her child, that boy has felt unsafe at home. It wasn't even social worker running home. It was that boy. That boy went to school and reported to a trusted adult at school that his mom has hit him. His mom has physically chastised him. And he didn't feel safe coming home. Okay? So, this bit, safe, has been compromised. And of course, if a child does not feel safe at home, that raises questions. And because the boy had shared very clearly, I think the boy is either 14 or 15-year-old, he had said, he doesn't feel safe and he doesn't want to come home. By law, school has the right, because school is a corporate parent. Yes, you could be the one that has given birth to your child. You are the biological parent of your child. But in the Western world, unfortunately, school, social work, police, health, we are all corporate parents to every child on the soil of United Kingdom. The teacher has a role to play. If the teacher feels a child, if they can evidence that the safety of a child has been compromised, or maybe the child's school attendance is not so great, they will work closely with parents. What is the problem? They will help put support in place. They don't just go and report to social work. It doesn't work like that. Now, back to mom of 5. In this particular case, she had chastised her child. It's not even the case of walloping. She chastised her child. She physically hit her child. Whether she slapped the child on the head or slapped the child on the back, the fact remains that child's safety was compromised, and the child felt the need to disclose that to a trusted adult. And the trusted adult in this case was a teacher or whoever it is that child has disclosed it to at school. And because that was disclosed, that child has highlighted concerns around the safety. Automatically, that has to be reported to the head teacher. And the head teacher in every school, the head teacher and the deputy head teacher, they are child protection officers. No data, no peace. And it doesn't matter whether you're a black or white or green or yellow person. When you compromise the safety of your child, the corporate parents will step in. It's as simple as that. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter your color, your skin. It doesn't matter the color of your skin. It doesn't matter your religion. It doesn't matter your ethnicity. So the boy has reported that his safety has been compromised because his mom hit him. The person who is meant to keep him safe has physically assaulted him. Okay? So, school then has to respond. As a corporate parent, they have to respond. The response is they have to report it to the child protection officer. And the child would have been schemed interviewed. That's a specialist kind of interview that is done through the social service system. They would have scheme interviewed the child would have documented, the child would have explained or highlighted what had happened. And the child will be asked, do you want to go home? Who is a safe adult? If it's a household where there's mom and dad, is dad able to look after you? And if the boy says, I don't know, maybe for talking sake, the boy says, no, dad would always, when my mom hits me, my dad is at home. So that means dad that is supposed to also keep the child safe has not kept the child safe. So the boy does not feel the need to come home because he doesn't feel safe coming home. So then they ask the child, who is a person, who is a trusted person that you can go and stay with? The child most likely has nominated his parent, nominated his friend or his dad or whoever it is that the child will nominate. And because mom of 5 is the one who has compromised the safety of this child, okay, what would have been agreed is, okay, the child can return home, but mom of 5 needs to leave. Hence the reason why mom of 5 was asked to leave the household, because she is the one that compromised the safety of the child. Now, when that happens, it doesn't mean a permanent you have to leave home. Now, the boy has reported the case. He's reported the safety. He's reported that his safety has been compromised. Now, having reported, social work will be informed. The duty social work will be informed. And a scheme interview will be conducted for the young person. Now, for them to conduct that scheme interview and investigate the entire concerns, the person who has compromised the safety of that child needs to leave the household. while the investigation is ongoing. At that time, I know Mom of Five was asking, but I'm the parent. Where is my parental responsibility? Yeah, you still have your parental responsibility. And I'm sure you know that. You were just asking because you wanted to create content. You definitely know that because you're a nurse. Whether you are a nurse of an adult, whether you practice adult nursing or you practice children, whatever kind of nursing you practice, you understand what that word means, because we all use exact same threshold for child protection and adult protection. Abuse is abuse. There's no if, there's no but about it. So basically, investigation has been conducted. Investigation was conducted. The scheme interview was submitted to the police. Now, social work does not have control over what police chooses to do. The child has reported a crime that has compromised his safety, and in that case, it's up to police. Scheme interview has been submitted because the scheme interview is jointly done through police and social work. So it's not social work who does that interview. It is police and social work that sit to do that what they call schemed interview. Okay? So the police was involved from onset. That interview, the information that the child shares will then be submitted, and it's up to police to pursue it. Because obviously, police is going to pursue it from an angle of crime. Establish, is there a crime or there's no crime? Once the police takes whatever it is, they submit it to Postcorito Fiscal, which is short form PFs, and then they begin to look at it. Can they establish a crime? Is this something that we can go gentle on? Or, they look at all of that. And in your case, the decision was to have a caution. Having a caution does not mean that you did not do that thing. Yes, NMC might clear you. NMC might say, social work said you cooperated. Yes, you cooperated because you had to. Because from what the Mom of Five was saying, even a reflection of her story, she wasn't necessarily reflecting on the impact he had on the child, because she was saying, I remembered when she was talking in a video, she said that the boy, that when the boy came back home, after a while they discharged the case, the boy came back home. Of course, she cooperated at the time. And I think she did mention that when the boy left home, because she has a 13-year-old, they also had to remove the 13-year-old from home, from her care. Now, that is not abnormal to happen. And it doesn't matter whether you're a black or a white person. It is what happens. Because if other children are above the age of 16, they are adults and there's service around them to report to. But the ones who are under 16, the system has a right as corporate parents to remove them from that abuser. And in this case, Mom of Five is the abuser of her child. And I'm not saying it that she's a bad parent. I'm just saying the way the system works. And it's quite interesting, because I find it interesting that she didn't understand, despite being a nurse. I'm surprised that she's claiming not to understand. Anyway, so of course, further to investigation, which she cooperated with, they would have put a safety plan in place, ensure that she's not going to repeat that same thing again. So it's not just as simple as, oh, they just returned, they just told me I can come back home. That's not true. There would have been a safety plan that would have been put in place. When you get angry or offense, or the child, of course, kids are always going to do things that kids are always going to push boundaries. But how do you respond as a parent? So since chastising, they would have worked with you. They would have seen how you manage, how you work within the plan, that safety plan. So it's not something that happened yesterday. It's not a case that you slap your child yesterday, then 2 days later they said everything is fine. That's not true. Safety plan would have been put in place, and you would have had to work with that safety plan. And following satisfactory engagement with the safety plan, then decision would be, to return that you can return back home. But I also noted in her show where she said, when she, a child clearly now goes to the father when he's wanting something, it goes to the dad. That still shows that there's still concerns. That boy is still worried. And as a mom, and this is not, I'm hoping that she sees this video. As a mom, I think, because she was saying, she would have lost her job, and I'm like, you're not even focused, you're not even paying attention to the concerns that your son has raised. Clearly, the child being back home has still not resolved the concerns. Because for that boy not to feel comfortable around you and feeling the need to go through his dad, it doesn't mean that the boy is remorseful, because the boy has not done anything wrong. You as a parent, you are meant to protect your child, and you have compromised the safety of your child. Hence the reason why the boy feels uncomfortable coming to you. It's not reflection. It's not that the boy is reflective. As a mom, if you hear me or if you ever get to see my video, I would expect that you sit with your son and have conversation. I would expect that you sit with your son and have conversation and reassure him. Yes, whatever has happened has happened. Now, I will tell you something. Like I said, I only have a child. And I remembered, like I said, I had my child long before I got married. I had my child when I was 19. And I was a child who had a child. And I know, as a parent, there were a lot of things. For me, I didn't grow up in my own house, in my own household. So there were a lot of, I had views on parenting. And at a point, I became a single mom. And I can tell you for free, finances was tight. It doesn't matter whether I had good job or not. Finances was tight. Okay? And I was that kind of person that, when I'm stressed about something, I don't know when, I always like to be in control of what I'm doing. And over time, my son and I, he's with me at the time. And I know when I come home, because I'm so stressed, maybe there's bills or whatever whatever it is, finances. Indirectly, I will come home and I used to lose it with my son. I will moan about things, I will nag, I just get irritated easily. Okay, and I'm sure a lot of parents are in my shoes, particularly if you're a single parent. You would know where I'm coming from. So I get irritated easily. I just lose it. Sometimes I'm like, and I've gone to work. You couldn't even clean the house. Little things that I didn't need to highlight on. And this strained the relationship I had with my son. It strained the relationship, and over time, even ordinary simple conversation me and my son will be having, he will say something and I will just lose it. And at a point, my son withdrew from me. Even me, I was a shadow of myself. A lot was going on in my life, and I noticed me and my son were constantly arguing, like constantly arguing. Despite the fact, I was always arguing because I was expecting so much from him. Don't ask me why. I was expecting so much from him. And I noticed this strain in our relationship. It was very evident. So at a point, I also had friends who I would speak to then. I had somebody I know that I would this that, that and the person like you have to do it this way, you have to do it that way, and I'm like so much I was listening. But one day, one day, I just sat down. I sat down and I told myself, I was like, are you okay? It was me by myself that I sat myself down. Something happened. And I was like, what's going on here? So I sat down. I sat myself down. This one is not they said to me. I was the one who sat myself down. I was like, what kind of relationship is this? Why will I noticed it was very obvious. My son, when I'm coming home, my son would deliberately, he will go quiet. I became that terror. Even when I don't speak, you could feel the tension. At a point, my son had to leave the house. He had to go and start staying with his friends. At a point, we'll call ourselves. And I thought to myself, I was like, what kind of life is this? I sat myself down. And I decided, I called my son and I said, son, I'm very, very sorry. I am so sorry. We sat down, we had heart-to-heart conversations. And that was a game changer for me. I broke down in tears because I didn't, he was telling me how I made him feel. I didn't realize how bad, I wasn't beating him. But what I was doing was worse than beating him. And I didn't realize because I was so focused on what was going on. I was so focused on finances. I was so focused on tight finances. We spoke and I said, no, never again will this happen. Let's enjoy being mom and parent. Let's enjoy being parent and child. I apologize. I wasn't ashamed to apologize. He apologized to me. We talked. We had conversations. And ever since then, I made sure I was very, very deliberate. Very, very deliberate. Ever since, I became extremely deliberate. But I tell you something, my behavior around finance, around tight finances, had a major impact on my son. I remember before he got married, we were having a conversation. He said, Mom, I noticed, we're having a conversation. He said, Mom, I don't ever like to think about money because I saw how it made you feel. That was deep for me. And he says it. He always says it. He says, I know how it made you feel. I mean, me and my son, we have good relationship. But there was a time as a parent, I took away that parental burden. I took away my role as a parent. I compromised the safety of my child with my behavior, with my actions. I did not physically do anything to him. But home became a place of fear for him. As a parent, I don't know, you might be able to relate what I'm saying. It's not until you beat a child. Sometimes your reaction, how are you reacting? I remember there are times I will come home. How you have not washed the dishes? How can you be in the house? You will not wash the dishes. I will just go. I will just go on a tangent. I'm stressed from work, and I'm bringing that home to him, to an innocent child who has done me nothing. You can see how his safety has been compromised. And not just his safety, that impacts on his emotional health. Because then that begins to impact on him. And if you look at it, it impacts on nurturing. Because it's not just about giving a child money. It's not just about saying I love you to a child. Your actions, one single action, can impact on this 8th well-being wheel. So I didn't respect my son. I wasn't thinking of his feelings. And children need all of this indicator to thrive properly. So as a parent, reflect on yourself. That's why I use myself as an example. Yes, I did not physically hit him. But am I able to reflect? The answer is yes. Was I able to turn things around? Yes, to an extent. Do you know till date, when I'm nervous about something or when I'm anxious about something, my son is worried. I remember that his wedding. I'm that kind of person. Yes, the kind of job I do, I meet people and da da da. I remember at his wedding, and it was his traditional wedding. Was it at the traditional? Was it traditional or I can't remember whether it was traditional or at the reception of his church wedding. You know, no, it was actually traditional. Yeah, I think it was traditional. So I sat down. You know, me, I was just kind of like overwhelmed by, all that was going on. I was, very happy at the same time, overwhelmed by it. And I remember him, he kept coming to me. He kept coming, and I was like, we're doing our thing. He kept coming and stuff like that. And at a point, it was like, Mom, have you eaten? And I was asking everybody if they've eaten anyway. So I was like, Mom, have you eaten? I said, no, I've not. I said, I'm fine. For me, I just wanted everything just to be okay. And he said, Mom, I've not eaten, but I need you to eat. I don't like the way you're nervous. Oh, sorry, you're anxious about something, and that's impacting on me. Mom, I need you to relax. Because when you're not relaxing, then I'm concerned. And I had to. Immediately, I picked that up. I had to be relaxed. And I noticed, I looked over and I saw him eating. So you can see how over time that's built on him. Where instead of him looking out for himself, he's constantly looking out for me. Yeah. So when you want to understand child protection, you have to understand it from these 8 indicators. You can see how safety, my behavior at home, my behavior around money impacts the way I react. My reactions compromise his emotional well-being. Compromise my ability to be nurturing. Yes, I provide a home, I provide a house and whatever, but what's a house when a child feels nervous being at home? The place of safety should always be the home. When a child sees home as a place of stress, that's it. So if the home is safe, the child will be healthy. Even if there's concerns with the child's health, it's very easy to pick it up. Achieving, the child will do very well at school. The child will be well nurtured. The child will be active, respected. What is respect? You are able to negotiate with your child. It's not a case of you must do this, you must do that. Now, this will now bring me to talking about the styles of parenting. Now, this is parenting styles. We have the authoritarian parenting. Hey, what does it mean? How are you? We have the authoritarian parenting. A lot of us Africans, we find ourselves in these shoes. Authoritarian parenting. That's that we say, this is how they used to do it. That's why I had to use myself so that you will not say, Me, I don't know what I'm saying. I used myself. Authoritarian parenting is parent driven. Is either my way or no way. I am your parent. You will do what I say you must do. It doesn't do what I say you must do. Exactly. What does it mean? That's exactly what it is. So, authoritarian parenting, where it is a case of it is what the parent wants that the child must do. The boundaries are strict. This is what it is, my house. I am the Lord and master of my house. As a parent, your child is coming when your children are playing. When you are coming home, everybody disappear. Everybody runs away. They japa. When you hear the japa finally. Mommy is coming. Everybody guru 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 guru. That's not healthy. That is not healthy. Your children should be able to have conversations with you. When you're coming home, your children should be looking forward to you coming home. Like I said, that's why I had to give myself as an example. When I was at that tangent of parenting role, when I'm coming home, I can tell you, my son used to lock the door. In short, he told me, when we were having that heart-to-heart conversation, my son said to me, Mom, I deliberately go to my friend and I will make sure I'm home when you are sleeping. That was how bad it was. Wow, what does it mean? Oh, okay. So that authoritarian parenting is parent driven. It's parents are the Lord and master of it all. Does it mean as a parent you shouldn't be a parent? The answer is no. Yes, you can be a parent, but you shouldn't run a military regime in your household. As a parent, your child, you should be the first point of contact for your children when anything is bothering them. What we run as an African parent is authoritarian parenting. You do that thing that they say African parenting. There's nothing like African parenting. We run authoritarian parenting and it's very destructive. You put strict rules in place and punishment. If you do this, I will break your head. I will so deal with you. I will beat you. I don't know if you've ever seen some parents. They will beat their children. Me, I'm a very good example. I told you guys, I grew up with my auntie. You see my auntie, when she goes out, she and her husband, whoever it is, when they go out, when they are coming back, they have their own children. When they are coming back, they will buy snacks and whatever it is for their children. But when they are coming back, my own gift is cane. Can you beat that? They will buy cane. That is the gift they will bring for me. And the interesting thing, whenever they want to beat me, okay, they will be so nice to me. They will cook and everything. So when it's time for us to eat, me, I already know I'm eating my supper that will lead to me being beaten. After eating, that is when these mad people, because that's how you can describe them, they will now pounce on me and beat the living daylight out of me. It's my mother's sister, my mother's younger sister that I lived in her house. They will pounce herself or the husband, they will pounce and they will beat me. So you know what? Till date, when you're offering me food, I fidget around it. Because I think I feel something bad is going to happen when you're offering me food. And that's why I don't like to be the center of attention, because when I was growing up, anytime I'm made the center of attention, I know beating is coming with it. Yes, of course, I got to a stage where I became very resistant to it. where I became very resistant, where, in short, before they would say, go and bring the cane, I will go and bring the cane. Or koboko, whatever nonsense they want to use. There is no mark on my body that I cannot tell you what happened. And the way I describe it is only a beast who treats a human that way. Because, come to think about it, I look around now and I always say to myself, if this woman knew that she could not care for me, why didn't you take me back to my parent, to my mom? And a lot of time when she beats me, is it that maybe my mom said something to her? So she takes that anger on me. A lot of times, if you ask her, why is she beating me? She has no reason. So me too, of course, I became stubborn. Well, not stubborn, I wouldn't say stubborn. Me too, I started playing to, like I used to like torment her. Because it was just my own way of like, okay, you like to beat, Olobilo Mare. I still freak out. So, authoritarian parenting is a one-way communication with very little consideration. Obey the last command kind of scenario. Where it is your rule or no rule. You will go and do law. As your father, that is the law. That is what you must study. You're not even asking the child. You've not paid attention to the child's academics. Is this child good in this particular? What's the strength of this child? What does this child love to do? You're not asking. This is what you have to do. You damage the child's emotion. So, let's come back. Let me show you. We're still on authoritarian. Like I said, today is a take your time kind of show. We're taking our time. So, let's come back. Remember, let's come back to this well-being indicator. Authoritarian parenting is parent-driven. There is no respect. The respect of the child is compromised. The safety of the child, your children, you are coming home, your children are running away. Once around, they will say boats. The home is not safe for the children. You have strict emotion. You beat the children at your own time. You call them Orishirishi name. There's no name you will not call them finish. Their emotional health is being impacted. Their mental health is being impacted. Achieving at school, like I was saying, for myself, do you know how I manage? Yes, I love to write. But I didn't like to write because I love to write. My own way of managing things was writing. And I like to use my words. I started using, I write in a very expressive way. And that was how I learned to manage myself. Nurturing was not there. I can tell you that for free. My auntie's home was not a nurturing home for me. I grew up in a very abusive home. As in, very, very abusive. The home that was meant to be a place of safety. The place my mom, the person that my father, my late father said, I can trust my life with this woman. I know my children will be safe in their care, in her care. Even if whether I'm dead or alive, I know she would care for my kids like her own children. That woman compromised all these indicators. That woman compromised it. My auntie that I lived with, she compromised at every stage. Home was not safe, healthy, luckily. Physically, I'm not that kind of person that falls ill. I was only sick twice in our house. The first one, they carried me to hospital for injection. After the second day, when I was still, one for me, oloyi, ki alara mi ya, bon you way, achieving long. I was just lucky to be clever. I was just lucky. Despite that I had dyslexia, I'm just lucky to be clever. Nurturing, that one was out of the window. Active, long, láti possible. Respected, rare, láti possible. Respected, long. Respected. leave that case for Matthias included. Every day my auntie will tell me, yeah, baba to kudanu nye. Meanwhile, I said when I started hearing, when I started hearing the things that my dad, like how much my dad loved her and the relationship he had with my dad, I was like, what? And this woman, my mom's sister, this is not an outsider, my mother's sister, the same mother, the same father. Her younger sister, the younger sister of my mom, is who I stayed with. It's like my siblings' children living with me, and I treat them in an unhuman way. Anytime I think about, I'm like, how heartless can a human being be? Your siblings' children, like how do you sleep at night, knowing that you treat your own children well, and another child in your care? If you can't care for that child, return the child back to the parents. Anyway, communication is one way. With little communication is one way, with very little consideration of the child's social, emotional, and behavioral needs. I was saying yesterday, I think it was yesterday, I was mentioning that I have dyslexia. I was seen to be a child who was always very unsettled at school. Yes, I passed my exams. Don't get me wrong. I passed my exams and everything. But my auntie, she was a lecturer. She could not pick up that I had dyslexia. Homework. No, I do homework by myself. I started living. I was not even up to 5 when I started living with her. She couldn't pick up on my behavioral needs because at a point I started reacting to her behaviors. So as children, as parents, your children are acting even your spouse, before you even get to, like, what does it mean with saying? Before you get married, your partner, how do they relate? How is your partner relating? What are their views on childcare? Even in your relationship, what's the behavior of your partner? Because all those things come out to play. All those things, they come out to play when it comes to making life-changing decisions, particularly around marriage. Like, I will tell you for free, I went into marriage with wrong reasons. For me, my criteria of marriage was I wanted a safe home. I wasn't looking at, yes, maybe love was there, I don't know. But for me, it was a man that has mom and dad. And the mother and father, I wanted to see how they treated people around them. And I saw that everybody was okay. So that was my criteria of marriage. I wasn't looking at, yes, the fact that a child grew up with mother and father does not necessarily mean that everything is okay. What's that child's behavior? What's that perception? What was dad's role in the household? What was mom's role in the household? Like my auntie's husband, he's a womanizer to the core. In short, anything on skate was mularun. He would drink, yes, you could say he loved his children to an extent, maybe. But when you look at it, he wasn't so much of a present person at home. Even the wife wasn't so much of a present mom. She still locks up in her religious nonsense that she does. But that's just like a camouflage. And I can see that. So when you look at it, the nurturing was never there. The home was just there is bed. To me, when I was growing up, home was just there is bed. And that bed, if you never reach 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, I know they go sleep. And 5 o'clock, you batina fiji elaro. They no born you when you wake up. Maybe when my mom comes around, I will go to bed on time. And the on time will go, you don't see. My auntie go give you comb. So make you begin the scrub dandruff for her hair. You don't see that kind of craze before. Till date, I still do not know how to sleep still because I'm so used to the way I was brought up. I remember when I went back to my mom was terrified. And I will never forget, she always said, Omoti Momulo, the child I took to this person. I took a child to this person, and this is what came back. My mom was terrified of me. Because all my response was all in trauma. And again, it came back to play my parenting. Luckily, I have a child that is forgiving. But the trauma I had as a child, I grew up with, came back to play in my parenting. Thank goodness I picked it up. Yes, it was, I would say maybe almost late. Because it wasn't smooth sailing. I'm not going to sit here and be telling you, oh, I'm the best parents I ever lived. That's a lie. I struggled, even in my own parenting. Despite my professional knowledge, I struggled in my own parenting. So you can see, communication, it was either my way or no way. Even my son, I used to do that with my son then. He will talk, I will say, shut up. I'm talking, you are talking. How very dare you talk? But of course, that's not the same anymore. I mean, I corrected that long before I got married. I will listen to him, we'll talk, both of us will have our conversations. Yes, there are things he will tell me that is not that, I might not agree with. But unlike before, instead of me being defensive, we have that conversation. And I remember my son used to say to me, he said, Mom, you don't be the way you behave towards me, you don't do that with my friends. You are very nurturing around my friends. My friends will say exact same thing that I'm saying, and you will listen. Yeah, but when I say it, you will react. And I had to unlearn. But it took a lot for him to have said that to me. We had those, like I said, I went to him. There's nothing like, please, as a parent, don't be ashamed to apologize to your children. Nobody knows it all. And for those who don't have kids now, please learn from us. There are different ways everybody raises children. There's no particular way of raising a child. But you can have this well-being indicator. You can have it at home if you don't mind. Take a copy of it. Have it at home. It will do you a lot of good as a parent. For me, as a parent to my child, I'm telling you, I'm not telling you somebody else's story. I'm telling you my own story. For me, as a parent to my child, at a point, all of this well-being indicator, I abused it with my child. I compromised all of it with my child in my care. I am being honest with you. I compromised all of it. And gradually, I had to sit, when I realized what I've done, I sat back. And I was able to start to reflect on it and start repairing it. Don't impose your wish on your children. You've lived your life. Let your children live there, but you guide them. I sat to my son, I apologized, and I said to him, I said, from today onwards, never again. Never again. And never again is never again. Because it's very easy. It's very easy to just, to undo all of these indicators. It's very, very easy, very, very easy to do it. Yeah, I plan. Yeah, I'm going to do more on it. Yes. I learned a lot. I learned a lot from my own. This is my bread and butter. This is a job I do. You can see how in my own home front, I was far from doing what I do professionally. And when you put authoritarian parenting where it is parent driven, there is strict rule. What are the rules? What are the strict rules? Your child is coming, you have a morogun, wooden spoon, cocoa, you knock it on their head. Some parents are me. There was koboko, there was a cane. There's nothing they know they use. I have different marks on my body, and the different marks, I can tell you what happened at those different marks. If I scrape my hair for you, you will be amazed at the amount of mark on my head. I remember the first time I undressed in front of my ex-husband. Whoa! He was like, "What? What's this on your body?" I will never forget. And all of those things. Sometimes I know, like my auntie, there are times just hearing her voice, it drives me to the wall. I remember as a child, when I'm coming home, in short, on my head, I'm like, okay, I'm coming home today. I know, say, anywhere. Is it Ken Abiko Boko that they be used to beat me? Or they will throw something on my head? Whatever it is, I shall know that something will happen. So when I get home, I can gauge. If they say, oh yeah, go and drink a kiniko, I know that one. But if they make correct food and they say eat, I know, say, that day they go beat me. I know, say that day they go beat me. So when they make anything special, I know, say beating they come that day. Now, that's authoritarian parenting, where you are very demanding as a parent. It is either your way or nobody's way. You are the commander-in-chief of armed forces. You'll be hearing parents. Me too, I won't lie to you. Me too, at a point, I was saying that to my son, no? Because that was how I grew up. That's what I grew up. I thinking it was, even though I knew it wasn't right. But when I lose it, I was like, I am the commander-in-chief of armed forces in my house. No. You're not the commander-in-chief of armed forces. As a parent, yes, you have a right and responsibility over your children. But your children also have their rights. Your children also have their rights. They have their rights. Listen to your children. Start paying attention to your children from when they are young, from when you give birth to them. It's not just about giving them money. Oh yeah, go and buy this. Yeah, let's go out. And the truth was, in the midst of all I was doing with my child then, even though I was making him feel fidget and everything, guess what? We will still go out. I think every last Friday, Saturday or something. We'll go out. We'll go for lunch together. We'll go out and do stuff. And he was telling me, he said, Mom, that was why you will see me pressing my phone unconsciously. So I'll be texting my friend. I'm with my mom. To tell you how much I compromise his safety. And of course, when you see pictures, we take pictures. Pictures don't tell you all. Don't be carried away with pictures. There's picture of happy family. Happy family picture doesn't tell you all. So as a parent, particularly those of us who are African parents, a lot of us African parents fall under this authoritarian parenting. A lot of us African parents, we fall under it big time. A lot of African parents, we fall on this authoritarian parenting. We fall into that category. And then we'll be saying African parenting. There's nothing like African parenting. What we are doing is called abuse at the highest order. Abuse at the highest order. Emotionally, we are abusing our children. Psychologically, we are abusing our children. Financially, you'll be hearing, I will not give you this. I will not buy clothes for you. I will not shake unicorn. You'll be hearing. Go and meet your mother. Children in your care. How do you treat them? You these useless children. House girl, all of them under your care. Look at you. If it's not me that is financing you, would your stupid father be able to send you to school? I used to hear things like that. Am I the one that told your father to die? And as single parents, I'll come to us as single parents. As single parents, it's hard. I wear the shoes and I can tell you that it is hard. You are the mom, you are the dad, you are the one having to make serious life-changing decisions. And it is hard. Sometimes we lose it. If not most times, we lose it. And we begin to take the anger. I remember times when me and my ex, maybe he says something to me, or he says something and, I get irritated. Unfortunately, I will take it on my son, not realizing. Do you see what your dad did? I will say. And then I know there was a time, I can't even remember what my son did one day. And I said, look at you. Just look at how you're behaving like your dad. So as single parents, we need to be very mindful. Me, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you that I'm not a perfect parent. I won't lie to you. I'm just lucky that I have a child who is forgiving. I am not a perfect parent. I am not perfect in any shape or form. So as a parent, look back. Don't insist. You have to do it my way. How we do this? It does not say you don't instill. You can still discipline a child. There's so many ways to do it without impacting on their health, on their safety, without compromising their safety. There's so many ways to do it. You can have conversations. Me and my son, sometimes we have conversations. When he doesn't, I'll say, you did this thing. I didn't really like what you did. Okay. This is how we should have done it. We talk about it. Sometimes, I'm tusha. Tatu matusha. But we're talking about it. We're not pretending. We're not walking away from it. Does that make me less of a parent? No. Does that make him less of a child? No. Now, let's move to let's move down to what's the name? Let's move to authoritative parenting. So authoritative parenting is a process whereby you, as a parent, you and your child, you solve problems together. Okay, what is the problem? Let us identify it. We sit down together, we identify the problem. Okay, if this thing happens, okay, this is the problem. How do we resolve it? How do we ensure that this does not happen? And if it happens, what should we do? How do we resolve it? What are your expectations? As a parent, I expect that you respect me. As a child, your child expects that you respect them as well. At what stage do that respect becomes compromise? You have that conversation. What do we do to ensure that both of us feel respected? We have conversations with ourselves. We have respectful conversations, just like couples. You don't start screaming at yourself. You're not going to achieve anything screaming at each other. But you can go away, you can calm down and come back and have that conversation together. So we have the conversation together. You have that conversation, you discuss it. You have an open conversation and you have natural consequences. It's not a case of mommy is coming. Oruka Luku Ben Johnson. Let's have conversations together. Let's talk about it. Let's have discussion. It doesn't make you less of a parent. It doesn't make that child less of a child. Let the voice of your child be heard. And you as a parent, let your voice also be heard. Just like it's a teamwork. Both of you can have a discussion just like your team, just like your co-worker at work. You have conversation together. In supervision, you and your manager, you have conversations. How is everything going? How is this? You have those conversations. Let's learn to normalize that. Let's learn to normalize having conversation as a parent. If children are in your care, maybe you have children in your care and not your own. Learn to have conversations. I'm going to stop today in authoritative parenting. Okay? I will stop in authoritative parenting. And tomorrow, like I said I was going to do a show over 2 days. Tomorrow, we'll come back to this topic. So this is a part 1. So as a parent, I want us to think about it. Where do you fall? Are you an authoritarian parenting? Or do you have an authoritarian parenting style? Or do you have an authoritative parenting style? Now, I said I was going to allow calling because I don't want to overwhelm us with this thing. Let me see. I want to see the right number for people to call. Mm. $405. Okay, if anybody wants to call in, I'm more than happy to answer questions. I'm more than happy to answer questions. If you want to call in, fine. Otherwise, yeah, we can go from there. And then we can come back tomorrow. So that's the number to call in, and it's WhatsApp only. I would love if you can call. So it's not just me talking. If you can call and yeah, if you want to call anyway. If you want to call and then let's I'm more than happy to answer 1 or 2 questions, or expand or whatever it is. Otherwise, I will call it a day. Is everybody there? Is the show gone? Is it me? What did I do? I don't know what I've done. What did I do wrong? I don't even know. Sorry. What did I do wrong? I don't even know what I've done wrong now. Anyway, so I take it nobody wants to call in. Okay, then let me run then. Tomorrow we'll come back for the part 2. If you have any questions, we can start with calling tomorrow, and then I'll put the number up immediately tomorrow, and then we continue. But otherwise, Otherwise, I'll see you all tomorrow at some point. I know this topic is not like a common topic. It's not like our common apropos topic, but there was a reason why I deliberately didn't do it that way. It's just because in the midst of play, we also have to be serious with ourselves. We have to educate ourselves. Like I said, my show, when I set up my page is not just for gossips. I mean, in the midst of gossip, you tell yourself the truth, and we learn from ourselves as well. So I'll see you all tomorrow. I need to go. I've got a couple of things to do. And I'll see you all tomorrow. Have a wonderful day. And if you have questions, just list your question, and then tomorrow we can continue. Tomorrow I would come out maybe around about 9, between 9-10 tomorrow. I'll come out, and then we can have a conversation. But I would love it to be interactive because it's good to hear what people have got to say. Nobody's an island. Okay. All right. Have a wonderful day, everyone, and see you later. Bye.